Good morning. I want to call the Community Services Committee meeting to order. I want to ask Councilor Don Garvin, would you say the invocation for us, please?
Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to serve our people this morning. We pray that you bless each of us, bless all of our Cherokee people. Be with our chairman, be with each member, be with our visitors. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Kelly, you did the roll, please.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Chris Stowe.
Here.
Bill England.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Juliet Coates. Here. Bradley Cobb. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishenhot. Meredith Fraley. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Don Garvin. Hannah Glory Jordan. Curtis Snell.
Here.
David Thornton. Kara Calvin Watts. Honey, we do have a quorum.
I want to thank most of our tribal council members that showed up for our committee meeting. I want to thank all of you. But I also want to thank the staff for showing up. I don't see anybody in the audience that we're not familiar with seeing, so thank you all for coming. But next on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the June 20 regular session. I hear a motion.
Make a motion to
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Move on into the minutes with Norma. Norma, as customary, we'd like you to come forward and tell us anything that you...
Tell you anything?
Yes. Anything.
Well, let me think. Good morning.
Good morning.
You all have my report. We did get in on time. There was one error, and I did not see it until this morning, and I don't have the correction, but under ICW permanency unit, I know we have more than 60 kids. I think it's more like 600 and something. I think we left off a number, but I'll try to send that correction in. As far as information, let me bring up the clothing vouchers, going very well this year. I've probably had fewer calls about concerns than ever. So I think Michelle Locust is doing a really good job of planning, and the numbers are down, surprisingly. We usually run somewhere around 600 to 700 at Tahlequah. We had 450. We've done more advertising this year, and of course we've been doing it for a number of years now, so people know to watch and to call. We've had lots of calls. So I don't know if that was because it was the holiday weekend, or it was hot and they thought they were going to have to stand outside, which they didn't. But there may be a blowout on the 18th when they come back to Tahlequah. So we'll see. They're in Fort Gibson today. So I expect they could have a good crowd there.
Ms. Jordan, have
Yes, ma'am.
I want to commend whoever was in charge of your operation there at Sequoia. I went and gave out water that day, and nobody, other than at about 20 to 10, there was a line. She opened up the building early, got everybody inside the building, and people could just walk in and be out in 15 minutes.
It was going, and part of that was because of the crowd.
It's the best,
It's the best
one I've ever seen.
Right, well, we try to learn
She's to
every
be
year, and
commended
it's
for-
Michelle Locust. This is her first year.
Well, would you send back, she's certainly to be commended. Nobody was standing out in the heat.
Right. Part of it was because there weren't as many. We have to say that, but Michelle has done a really good job, so.
Well, and we were getting compliments from people that were coming out.
Good.
That they were very happy with the process this year.
Great.
And they knew what to bring. I mean, everybody knows now the items that you need, and they were just in and out in a few minutes.
Yeah, we hope that's true everywhere, but I don't know if it will be. But thank you, we appreciate it, and I will pass that on to Michelle.
Norma, what's the status on our pay center over in Adair County still?
Well, at this time, we're interviewing for a new director. So we're going to need to get that director in. They're not going to need to be up and running. And the other thing is that just the financial times, we have to find funding. And the other thing is, you know, we're trying to decide where the best place for us to go, if it is Muskogee or Adair at this time. So you know, we're behind the timeline that we wanted, but who knew that we were going to have some of the financial situations, you know, there's constantly cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, and that's part of our major funding. So we have to factor that in before we start any new big endeavors, but it's certainly on the board. It is something that that new person will be very much, you know, looking at as far as learning about running the facility. But we have 80 people there now. We're expecting to have 100 probably by the first of the year.
That's good. Good to hear. Okay, any more questions for Norman?
Thank you.
Thank you, Norman. Next up is Community Services with Charlie, and I see Ashley's going to do it.
How's everybody doing today?
Okay.
You have our report. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Baker.
Yeah, the last month, I asked how many houses have been framed since January. And I'm sitting here looking at every house here, and I don't really see any start dates that have been since January. But how many have you framed since January, and where are they?
Got 3 framed. One's in Pegs, Lion Switch, in Westville.
Okay, on your report, what numbers are those?
I'm not sure. To be honest. I think we'll have to get those from our director over that program, is exactly which
I mean, I see
individuals
one
those
you
are.
started in June, but it's only 4% complete. I see some that, started last year. But you're saying 3.
Yes, sir.
Can you find out what 3 those are?
Yes.
And where they're at?
Certainly can.
But there's only, how many's been completed this year?
7 since September have been completed.
We're building 1 house a month, maybe.
I mean, we have others going, but as far as completion, yes.
Okay. And some of them were started 2 years ago that have been completed?
I'd have to look and see, I'd have to find out exactly which ones, as far as individuals go. We do have some that do lag behind due to participant labor, but.
Okay, thank you.
Ashley, I know there were some
Yes.
houses that had been started probably 2 years ago, maybe 28 months ago, and they're just kind of sitting there. Have we made a decision on what we're going to do with those houses as far as, are we going to let somebody else have them, or?
Say, on the ones, there is a process, they are in the process of possibly getting those back.
No, you are. And now, how many are those?
There's 2 for sure.
There's 2 for sure. Okay. Yes, Ms. Gordon.
How does that work when you get them back? Are we building the houses on their private property?
They put up their land when they
Their
build the
acres.
houses, yes. Their acres.
So, do we have a mechanism in place to take the house and the land
This is the
back?
first time we've had to do this, and so it's kind of a learning experience for all of us.
Do you know whether we have a contract with them, or do we have something in writing that sets out their obligations
I
and
believe
our
we do,
obligations?
when they very first start the home.
Would you mind sharing that with us next month?
Sure.
Bringing each one of us possibly a copy of the contractual agreement that they're asked to sign
Sure.
at the beginning of the process. I don't need their names or anything, but I'd
Okay.
like to see the form.
Just for, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mrs. Counselor Watt, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you just email it, save a tree, at least
Yes.
for me? Okay, thanks.
Well, I guess you can say the truth to me too, just email
Okay.
it, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Stone?
Yes, we've built some of these panel houses in the past, and those people that's living in those homes, these houses are still sweaty, and they're having to mop it up on the floors at certain times, and the walls, and they're getting mold in these houses. We're supposed to go back in and put a new ventilation system in.
And we have begun that process.
When are they going to do it?
We've already begun that process. They're just taking them one house at a time as far as fixing the ventilation and then going back and making the repairs.
Where are they now?
I'm sorry, I don't
Can
have
you
that
find
with me. I
out for
can't
me and
find
see
out.
who's on the list and who's being done?
I can.
Okay, thank you. I get a call every month.
One other thing, Ashley, I want to bring this forward to, if you can get some answers for us, is
Okay.
this program's been going on almost 3 years, and I've had some calls about some participants that have taken possession of their homes and been told, you're on your own. Once you sign the deed and sign the papers, you're on your own. But I've had one participant here in, I believe, Cherokee County that has problems with some equipment that's in the house. We don't seem to have any guarantees on the equipment that's installed. I'm talking about holes in the bathtub, cracks in the bathtub, and he's told that he's on his own. Well, that's not right. If this program doesn't have any dollars to go back and guarantee some of this work, then we need to go back and look at the program, overall program, and see if it works. The way it works in the Indian Health Service program, if we go out and put a pump in the ground and it doesn't work, we guarantee that work for a year. But apparently in this housing program, we don't have any guarantees on the thing.
Okay.
They're told, once you sign the papers, you're on your own, but that's not right. That's not the way we're going to treat Indian folks who live in these homes. So I'm bringing for this committee for them to know, so I expect something to be done about that, in the near future, to go back. We need to put more dollars in that for that type of work, and we need to do that. So I just want to put that on record, as we have calls about that. Any more questions for Ashley? Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Hey, Roads and Transportation with Michael. I see Barry's here in lieu of Michael today. Good morning.
So you have a copy of the report. Have any questions?
Barry, would you just bring us up to date on where we are on the out projects and which ones may be bid out next? You do that?
We have 3 projects that are currently getting real close to going out to bid. Cedar Crest Road, Cedar Crest Bridge, Mays County, and I'm blank. Can't think of the other one. Cedar Crest Road, Cedar Crest Bridge. We had Twin Oaks Bull Hall, it's Barber Road in Cherokee County, over by Caney Ridge.
It's a Twin Oaks Gold Hollow Road. Is it about ready to go out to
It's
bid?
it's probably 4 to 6 months away. It's getting real close. That's a very long project, and we're having to really go through the plans and make sure everything's right before that project is bid.
How about the stimulus projects? Are they all done?
We're finishing up on the Nycut North project. It's scheduled to be complete by the end of this month. The Honey Hill project is also scheduled to be complete by the end of August.
The last meeting, we asked Michael to take a look at the fencing contract. Have you been involved with that any as far as pulling those out of the contracts for contractors and that tarot vendors?
I've been in a few discussions about that, and it's a big project. Really, we've looked into it, and we're still looking at some of the options.
Okay. Because I know we'd actually looked at the Twin Oaks Bull Hollow project, and it was a $400,000, estimated $400,000 just on the fencing contract.
Right.
And I certainly would like to see some of our Indian folks that live in this area, which are very capable of doing the fences, to be able to bid on those projects. So anyway, I see that you're still working on it. Appreciate it. Any more questions for Barry? Yes, Ms. Calmar.
So I think you probably saw the email asking for the point system for selection of contractors and vendors for the roads program. So you couldn't get a hold of it prior to this meeting, so
Right.
maybe we will have an opportunity to discuss it next month because you're going to provide it by email
Right.
in the next couple of days.
I'll make sure that it gets emailed out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sure.
Mary, which end are you gonna start on the Barber project, the Barber Road project?
That will be totally up to the contractor, whoever is awarded that project. Typically, it'll start probably on the Dry Creek end and work back towards Highway.
Is it gonna start there where you turn right across the bridge where it goes, it's dirt road there,
Yes, ma'am, that's,
right there at the base of the mountain?
yes, it'll tie in right there to the actual Dry Creek project there at the bridge T.
So the cemetery will be maybe be the last part?
It typically, yes.
Because it's gonna take quite a bit of the parking area of the Barber Cemetery, and I just wondered how we're going to try to, we're not gonna leave them any parking.
I'd have to check the plans and see how close we are getting to the cemetery.
If your stakes, and I assume they're in the right place, if you're going up to the stakes, you're going to take probably 3/4 of their parking area. And I just wondered how we were going to, if we were going to try to make some provisions there to help the cemetery in terms of maybe creating additional parking. I wish you would look into that.
I will.
I've had several families out there ask me about, well, where are people supposed to park? Because you're getting real close to
No.
where they go into the cemetery.
Sometimes the right-of-way stakes are further back than the actual road itself, so a lot of that area can still be utilized. I'll look into it though.
And it's also really on a steep incline to get up into the cemetery. And if we are planning on cutting in quite a bit, it's going to leave them with the hardship of even being able to get up there to the few remaining areas that they might be able to park. I really just don't know where they're going to park when they have a funeral.
Okay. I'll double
It's a
check.
fairly active cemetery, so I hope that we're going to leave them with something that they can still utilize as parking, and that it can be done in such a way that our elderly people will be able to get into the,
Right.
to the cemetery.
And we try to take all that into consideration when they do the design and everything, but I will double check that and get back with you.
Okay, thank you very much. If you keep up on that, I'd sure appreciate it. That's a real important issue there.
I'll see what they got going
All
on.
right, thank you.
And I think Ms. Gore makes a good point, Barry, that if we're doing road that goes around community buildings, cemeteries and things like that, I think we need to really look at that and put it in the plan for those contractors to make a parking spot, because they're actually taking some property from that particular area. So I think it's a fair trade-off, that we go in and fix it where those people can park and, if you handicap people, fix the property there, it probably didn't cost us any more money to do it. So I think it's a good idea. Mr. Thornton had a question.
Yes, I don't know if this would be exactly for you or Charlie's group, but probably Charlie's group, but since we're talking about parking lots, Redbird Smith Cemetery's parking lot needs to be extended in the worst of ways, because there's not enough room in there we had a funeral there here just a while back, and there wasn't enough room in there.
I think that'd be a Charlie question, I believe.
But anyway, if no one's here representing Charlie still yet, then I guess I'll talk to them. Thank you.
I'll question them about it though.
Okay. I sent them a text about it, but I haven't gotten anything back from them. And we need to see if we can't get some blacktop in there also.
Barry, one other question I had, or a comment, is on the Redbird Smith Drive through there. I drove down there and saw those spots in the road. What are we gonna do, just cut them out and bring them back up to
We're still looking at our options on that, dealing with the contractor and trying to find the monies, and we're still working on trying to get those
So
sold.
I just thought it was, it's a shame that it happened, and I know why. We probably put some big trucks over that road, and not made for, heavy trucks and stuff like that, but it's a nice looking project that we're doing, so.
Yeah, we're still looking into that one.
Okay, any more questions for Barry? Thank you, Barry. Next is public comments. That's with Michael in, and that's a customary thing. We just leave it on the agenda, Barry, so I don't see any, unless anybody has any comments for the public, so, thank you.
Thanks.
Next up is David Sullivan with Housing. Good morning. Good morning, David.
Make some disclosures. Mortgage assistance, we've got Jesse Grayson, he's the uncle is Deputy Chief Joe Grayson. Stevie Case, who's a Housing Services employee, and then Tristan Cook, daughter of Housing Services employee Dennis Fine. They've all been approved or have applied for mortgage assistance. Home ownership, Joanne Davis, who's a Housing Services employee at Salisaw. John Garvin, uncle to Housing Services employee Stacy Rogers, also at Salisaw. Carrie Moore, daughter of Housing Services employee Karen Hernandez. And Lavonna No Fire, cousin to Housing Services employee Vera Hooper. And then for rental assistance, Melissa Carroll, cousin to Deputy Chief Joe Grayson. Those are the disclosures. Just going to mention that the next board meeting is a week from today at noon over at the Housing Authority conference room. Just to follow up on something that was mentioned last month about Oaks, some of those houses up there. We are looking at those. We'll have to do a little research on who owns some of those, so we are working on that. I think Curtis also mentioned it over at the meeting last week.
David, I just think it's a shame to have a housing unit like that, and I know it's not the housing authority's fault that it's like that, but I just wish if we're gonna build more, or even like Redbird Smith, that we put some restrictions on those houses to where we have first right to buy those houses back. Those are, the frame's probably still good and the brick's still good.
Yeah. One of the things back when those were built, the income limit on the folks getting those was real low.
Yes.
You know, and they really didn't have enough funds to take care of the houses. And over the years, you've seen how that's gone. Some's taken good care of them and some haven't. But with Nahasda, we raised the income limit up. We had to have more income. And it's worked out, I think, a little bit better. They've had a little more income to take care of that, but we are looking at those. Just want to mention that. Just one other thing, HUD comes about every 3 years. This is their week to be here to do their 3-year assessment or whatever. So they're over, I've been working with them all morning, getting them stuff, but probably this week will be the only week they're here. That's all I have to
Okay, I know we had some dollars to go back and buy some homes, but we haven't purchased any of those back.
We've went to 2 or 3 sheriff sales,
Okay.
but we haven't been able to obtain anything at this point. This particular market is not like some other markets where the value of the home went way down. The values stayed real good in this area, and therefore the lenders, they pretty much bid to keep the property so they can sell it. That's what we run into.
Mr. Baker.
And you were looking at one that you thought was gonna go too high at sheriff's sale or whatever. Have you gotten with the Chickasaws to see if you could buy it by treaty or anything?
The Chickasaws, is that
Yeah,
one
you
of
said the Chickasaw Bank or whatever.
Oh, Bank 2?
Bank 2, yeah.
Trying to remember, Bill, John, that thing like changed hands a couple of times. The lender?
Probably. Bank 2's the one that ended up with it.
We haven't talked to Bank 2 yet.
Are you
I
going
can. They may,
They might have the same appraiser you got.
yeah. I'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
David, can you elaborate a little bit more on what you reported in council last night as far as the Ronald McDonald house, maybe the case? Where is it and what's the status of it?
Up at Hastings, this is just an idea, and I can't even remember who exactly come up with it. I'll take credit for it. I don't know that I did that, but just they're starting to expand. You know, the plans on the board is to expand that hospital area up there and do more surgeries. And they already have folks that come and drive in from afar, and there's no place for anybody to go. First off, they got the gas bill of driving back and forth. A lot of our folks can't afford any place to stay. So they felt like it might be a good, at least look at the possibility of putting something where folks can spend the night or a couple of nights or whatever they need to do. or even in cases where the surgery's scheduled for 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're coming from Nowata or somewhere up, that have a place that they can spend the night. But it's really in the early stages, but the Housing Authority Board thought it was a really good idea to at least look at it. So right now they funded the A&E on it. So,
All right. Any more questions for David? Thank you, David.
thank you.
And we have Commerce with Anna Knight. Anna, good morning, Anna.
Morning. You have a copy of my report, and I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Anna, you always have a good report. You don't have any questions. Oh, hang on a minute. We got to count your
Now
copy.
you're just making stuff up.
And actually, it's the last sentence on the last page. I'm just curious, do you have anything to compare? I mean, I'm looking at that 3% foreclosure rate, which I think is actually really good, but do you have anything to, what would be the nearest thing to compare that?
That is the cumulative rate since 2005, and if you look on the very front page where it says families housed, I thought, did we have it? I thought I saw it on this report. 3.3 is the average rate for the 14 counties of the Cherokee Nation just on the regular market.
Okay.
So and that's a current rate, not a cumulative rate.
I knew it was below, I just couldn't, okay. That's
And for
good.
the current, since we've have started doing the self-sufficiency counseling and the MAP, it's 1.6. So it's gone
that's made a
down.
huge impact.
Right, that 3% is just the cumulative rate since 2005.
Thank you.
And I just want to comment, Anna, about, I guess, the training the pre-training that you had before mortgage assistance program. I can see it's dropped, is what you said just now. That makes a difference. Because I think a lot of people, we want a house, and they just barely have enough money to make the house payment, but they don't take into consideration the insurance or the car insurance and the insurance or electric. So I think it's made a difference on the counseling that we've done. Mr. Baker has a question.
On the goal for housing, 300 families, we're at 96. Do we still think that we're going to have 204 families by the end of this fiscal year?
No, we have actually created a pipeline for the rest of the year. We think we're going to have about 100 more families come out of there. And what we're assuming at this point is that because of the tax credits last year, people that would have bought this year bought last year. That's why we needed so much extra money last year.
But how long have we had this program?
MAP has been in effect since 2005.
And when it says program to date, 316 families, what does that mean?
That is the number of families that have actually gone through the self-sufficiency counseling program, who were unable to obtain a non-predatory mortgage, who went through intensive counseling to be able to qualify. That's where we do the credit coaching and the one-on-one budget counseling with them. So those were people that have gone through the self-sufficiency program. Program to date for MAP, I cannot remember what the number is. It's about 1,500. That is just for the self-sufficiency counseling. And we have sent a email to finance, and we need to send it to the housing office telling them that we're not going to use all the MAP funds this year that have been budgeted. So it's available for use for other people, and we've reduced our request for next year.
Thank you.
Ms. Swan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is that really more reflective of the economy and people's ability to actually afford a home regardless of how it's paid for? Or what do you think that, are we just, or is the demand, because we've served so many people in the last few years, is the demand kind of slowed down?
I really think for this year, because it's only been a couple of years since we've actually operated the MAP program. For this year, it's reflective of a lot of people that bought homes last year that they just pushed up their purchase date. And
Are
so
we
we're.
able to serve them faster?
Because of the,
Okay.
and because of the tax credit, they had an incentive to do that.
Okay.
So we're not real sure about next year. There are, credit standards have been tightened, so it's a little bit harder for people to get mortgage loans. And that's affected the, the economy, and the tightening of the credit has affected it somewhat. But we don't expect it to go down that much next year. We just had an extraordinary amount of money last year because of the tax credit, so.
When you, because you always do a great job on your reports, thank you. Could you kind of add some of that qualitative comments?
Sure.
That what is impacting when we see changes? That would be helpful.
Okay. We
On your
can-
assumptions.
We
Thank
can
you.
make a
And-
list next time to show you what we think the pipeline's going to be for the rest of the year, and then make some comments about why we think it's like that and what we anticipate for coming years.
Thank you to you and your team, because I know the folks in my area that have gone through it, I mean, it's life-changing and changes them and the next generation, so that's great. Thank you.
Ms. Jordan?
And what's gonna be your 2012 goal?
We haven't quite figured that out yet for next year. I would assume that it's probably going to be 235 or 280 was what we had usually looked at. So we're probably going to maybe look at maybe 250, 230. We still need to, we've got our pipeline for the rest of this year, but we need to make some assumptions about next year.
Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
And when they were having the mortgage, the tax credits and this, how many did we do last year?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can find out and email that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Anna? Okay, thank you, Anna.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to the agenda, old business, we see none pending, and we'll move into the new business. I have a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for funding to the United States Department of Agriculture for FY 2012 Food Distribution Program.
Move for approval.
Second. Moved and second. Any discussion on it? Yes, Ms. Jordan?
I'd like to be added as a sponsor.
Okay, Ms. Jordan would like to add as a sponsor, and I think this comes out of, Norma, is this Jerry?
Yes, I'm gonna let Jerry take
Okay.
a crack at it, that's his department.
Jerry, I think this one has a match of like, what, 830,000?
That's like 700 and
Excuse me.
810 altogether, I believe it is.
796.
796, and part of it is,
All that's the cash part.
that's cash. And then we have
Appreciation.
some depreciation on the building our buildings that we can use as in-kind. I think that's $34,000 that's allowed for in-kind.
Good. All right, any questions on this resolution? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you, Jerry. Next is a resolution authorizing the submission of an application to the United States Department of Health and Human Services for 2012 funding for low-income home energy assistance programs. I hear a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to be added as a sponsor.
Okay, Ms. Jordan would like to be added. Anybody else like to be added as a sponsor?
Yeah, why not?
Mr. Baker? Mr. Baker? Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign. That's about it. Any announcements today? Anybody have any announcements? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you.